she didn't know because she wasn't there yet. So I would have had to said something, but I kind of pushed it down. I didn't deal with it at the same time. So it's after when I left, I was like, oh my God, that is just totally like, you know, why would you just look at me? She just like, she was at her desk and she looked. And then I guess because my, you know, like I have my afro, I'm feeling really cute. And, you know, of course, it's the color of my skin. She's probably thinking, oh, she's not our model. She's probably the cleaning lady. So I was like, that was just so insensitive. So that was one of the things. But otherwise, other than that, I know that it's a tough time, but we believe in change, and I know change is going to happen, and we all want to see it. And this is one of the things why I started Model Meetup, because we are always seen on all these different platforms looking pretty, looking beautiful, but sometimes we don't get to speak. So you are a body positive advocate. What can you tell me about that, intertwining with what's going on now? Like, how do you want to use your voice and your platform, you know, to uplift and encourage people? Because so many people are feeling, even with Corona, you know, a lot of people are feeling like, what's next?
I think it's a really interesting time now for fashion and for models in particular. You know, we are hired to be representation of a product. We are hired to be a representation of a company. And I think models have an opportunity right now where if, you know, there are companies who are not speaking up about what's going on and taking a stance, because it's not enough to be, you know, you have to be anti-racist and just not say we aren't racist. I think that there's really kind of a defining line in the sand there. So, you know, I think models can, again, use their platform. I think it's a really scary and interesting in time, because I understand that there are, you know, models and influencers with way bigger platforms, and, you know, they know what's right and what's wrong, and they know that it's important to take a stance and to use their platform. And again, it can be for education, it can be for, here are donation resources, you know, here are when marches and protesting, you know, are happening. Here are things that you can contribute to in just not maybe a physical sense, but in a digital sense. And I think that that's important. And I think if, you know, models, like for myself, I've really been posting on my stories about other stories that are happening, both positive and negative. You know, we're seeing a lot of negative right now because we've been pushed to such a level of fear and at the end of our rope with COVID, that all of these other issues within this broken system that's existed there since the inception of the United States, you know, are happening. But also yesterday I was like, you know, I'm going to show the cops that knelt with protesters, and I'm going to show stories of, there was one prayer group that completely was white that prayed with a whole nother black prayer group, and they apologized, and they apologized for the injustices that they have caused on another group of people. And so now, I think now is a time to be active in many different ways as a model. I would call a bunch of brands to do the same, because it again, it really is just about the morality of being, you know, right, and treating human beings as human beings. But hopefully that answered your question. I think, you know, using your platform, and if you feel called and safe to go out and protest, to do that. If you do not, then it's, you know, supporting small businesses and donations, or, you know, in the Bay Area, there are small companies and family-owned businesses in Oakland that are asking for people to come out and help clean up after rioting and after protests. You can do all of those things. And I think there's not one right or wrong way to do it, as long as you're educating yourself and being involved, whether you are part of the Black community directly or not. So
what I really love that you said, Adriana, and it touches my heart, you said apologize, you know, and I you know, that's a big thing for me as a Black woman. I think apologies, if, you know, just hearing that what we are going through exists, and everybody else acknowledging it and saying, you know, we're sorry for what you had to go through, you know, just that sympathy, giving us that sympathy and hearing us out. I think that would go a far way. And then, of course, implementing some changes.
I think what's interesting is there are a lot of people who are not directly in any community of color or in the Black community, and they want to help, you know, and they want to be there, and what can I do? And you know, I definitely have had those feelings before of like, you know, call to action, call to do things. And I think right now, one of the most important things is you can check on your direct family members and friends and say, how are you? I'm here for you, and really listening. And, you know, I'm a talker. I love talking. You know, and I think, you know, it's really, really important to just listen. And after you're done listening, then say, what can I do to help? But, you know, I think that's a part of acknowledging a sense of privilege, is it's not always about, you know, solution with the people, you know, the connections that you have. It's acknowledging and listening. I think that's, you know, that's important.
Yes. And actions and all in the energy and all of that. So I also wanted to ask you, how about your model journey? Like, how did it start and all of that? Tell us a little bit. I know you went to the University of San Francisco, as you said.
USF Dons. I went and I played volleyball at the University of San Francisco. Definitely had a knee injury that deterred some things, but I ended up studying abroad in Croatia, graduating from the University of San Francisco. And I don't know. I mean, I majored in journalism, and I had always been interested in fashion. I have two sisters. My mom actually used to be a buyer for Bullock's Wilshire. She worked up her way from like being a sales rep to actually working in the buying office. You know, I've always been interested in fashion.
Right.
And I don't know. It's just something I've always been interested in. I was an executive assistant to the CMO of Salesforce for almost 10 years. That was very much, that was a very interesting job. I mean, it forces you to be the personal assistant to someone at a very high level, very high functioning level, but also to be available to them 24/7. And you learn a lot about customer service. And I encourage everybody to get one customer service job, to understand how to speak and interact with other human beings, not only professionally, but to just help you to understand, you know, how different personalities work. And I don't know, after that, my client at the time decided to get married and start a family. And I did not want to become an au pair or a nanny. And she had offered that to me. And I decided to go into fashion full time. I mean, how I actually got started in modeling is my cousin LeBaron went to UCLA with one of her really good friends, Joyce. And Joyce is like 5'11", Asian, beautiful model. And she had worked all over the world and shot covers and done e-com and all sorts of things. I met her at a Christmas party over 10 years ago. And she said, I like what you're wearing. I like your style. We started talking and she said, have you ever thought about modeling? And I have to admit that I was not, I'm a talker and I'm sarcastic. And I said, oh, like, what are you, from LA or something? Like, that's just, oh, are you like a model or what are you? And she said, no, actually I'm going to start an agency and I think Plus is going to be something. And I said, oh, well, what's that? And you know, and so, yeah, probably about 10, 12 years ago, she started her own small agency in the Bay Area called The Booker. I was one of the first Plus models, and you know, a long time ago, a company called IGG, which has now been since bought up by SWAC, based in Southern California. They were based in San Francisco. They did everything in-house in San Francisco, and they were one of my first paying jobs as a model. And kind of from there, Joyce at The Booker said to me, I know that I can't push you in a way that you need. And she was very gracious to connect me to Scout Model and Talent in San Francisco. And I think about 8 years ago, I was their first ever Plus model. And I'm very proud of them for that. And I'm proud of myself for that. And, you know, I don't know what it's like in straight size. I have friends who are straight size in modeling. It is a little bit different. However, you know, you have to be as much of your own agent as your agents are for you. So I had heard about Full Figured Fashion Week, and I applied for that, and I casted for that in 2014, which is, I think, when I met you and was,
right?
yeah, it was fantastic. Went out to New York and did Full Figured Fashion Week, and just really immersed myself in the research of what this was becoming. So, there are a lot of models that came before, us, that really paved the way before the Ashley Grahams, like, Fluvia Lacerda and Ivory May and Lorna and those types of models. And I really,
forget Emmy.
And M, so, I mean, there are a lot of women that came before me, and I was really interested in the history of that. And that's what I've always,
because not a lot of models do that. A lot of models, they just come in and they're like, look, I'm not watching anybody else. I don't care who came before me. I'm just doing me. So I take my hat off to you for acknowledging, the other models who came before us. Definitely. That's great.
I mean, you have to, Amber Davis, there's a lot of that came before us. I mean, I wore a piece of her that Robert Knight had created for her in Full Figured Fashion Week. And the fact that I knew who she was when we were talking about it, he was kind of blown away. And I'm like, well, she did this and she did this. And,
that's one thing I always want to tell a lot of models, that, no matter what job you're going for, which designer you're working for, you always have to research. Yes, some people on here are saying research is very important. And they're backing you up and saying also that customer service is very important too, definitely. Yeah, so it's very important to know who you're working with. Let me give you a little secret tip of mine. Like, if I know I gotta go to a casting, or if I never heard about this company before, Google is your best friend. Just get on there and see what they're all about. You know what I mean? Like, can I wear this bright lipstick? Can I wear my jewelry? Can I, you gotta see what type of client they are before you go in there. You know,
it's important because, again, I've made certain investments in myself, like with Coco Rocha Model Camp, and Mandy Lavold does a great runway intensive. And in one of Coco's classes, she talked about, and it was a way, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and she talked about, when you go into a client, you're really playing like a part, like anything like an actress or an actor. And that was something that was really different for me. So some of the best chameleon models are the girls who can be, for Target every day and who can be on the cover of Vogue. Those are the more looks that you can do, the more characters that you can completely emulate.
Wait, that's Coco Camp. Somebody said the Risa May.
Hey girl, how are you?
Oh, you know her? Hi.
Yeah. I met her in New York through Jahan for Fashion Week, and she was kind of one of the first girls in Coco Rocha's camp. But I mean, modeling is about playing a character, and as much as like, even if you're doing that, that e-com work, you can still bring that, pizzazz and understand the ethos of a client or a collection. And that, that was something that, I really learned through Coco. And you can say, oh, that's kind of common sense, but she really framed it in a way that was like, yeah, that's kind of how you can be successful in a longevity standpoint of being, being a model. So
yeah, you have to be a chameleon, definitely. Jeannie said she cried when you wore Amber's dress.
I mean, I view that as being being a part of fashion history, just like, Ellie Mayday in the additional New York Fashion Week runway show, and she had the crop top that says, labels should only be on clothes, and in the crop top. And I bought that shirt because I view that as a part of like plus fashion history specifically.
Yeah. Wow, that's a powerful moment right there. Definitely. Wow. Ellie Mae, I miss her so much. She was such a sweetheart, and just a woman who was just body positivity all the way. Even during her struggles, she was still going on, and she saw the angel in everybody. You know, she was really, really great. So what is next for you? What are you working on right now? And tell us a little bit about your agencies, because I know you're with a couple different agencies from New York and in San Fran and in LA. So give us a little bit about that with the history versus independent and all of that.
I have never worked technically freelance. I was signed with the Booker, a small agency in San Francisco, which no longer exists. I am with Scout Model and Talent in San Francisco. They are fantastic. They've done so well that they've actually opened up a branch in LA, which does include Plus, which they are looking to have more Plus. I'm with Bicoastal. I'm also with Bicoastal Model Management in Los Angeles and New York. They have a really dedicated board for Plus. Shout out to Jessica and Chrissy and the rest of the team. And as far as like, you know, I know that there are many independent Plus models who do freelance or do things directly through Instagram. I mean, given COVID and everything right now, I think that more shoots might be happening at home, and that would require models to not only have their own equipment and background, but to do their own hair and makeup. So that might be where, you know, modeling goes right now. And that's something that I've tried to make the investments in the ring lights and the backgrounds and all those things to be able to do that and work with companies. But you know what I'm really looking for, I think every model.
Sorry, Jill Alexander just came up.
Okay.
Hey.
I think, you know, it's important to go what kind of, and this is another thing that Coco worked in her workshop. She said, you know, even if you've been modeling or you're new to modeling, like what kind of model do you want to be? And not only that, like what clients do you want to work for, or maybe where do you want to travel to, or those things. But she said, you know, what do you want to stand for? What are the things that you will do and won't do? Which is something I had never thought about in the 10 years. I mean, all of the projects that I've been broached have been something, you know, very PC, very run-of-the-mill, e-com, campaign. And I said, you know, that's a pretty interesting question. Like, if I had Annie Leibovitz and she said, I want you to shoot topless in upstate New York with a pack of, you know, I don't know, wild horses, you know, a herd of horses. Would I be able to say yes or no? And there's no right or wrong answer, but what kind of model are you, and what are the things that you are willing to do and not do? And I thought that that was really, you know, helpful and interesting to, you know, talk about.
It changes during time for everybody, because I remember like one of my first jobs as a music video model, I was in my bra and panties.
Yeah.
I was like, you know, it was so much fun, and I'm still in my bra and panties. What's that?
Everybody needs to wear cute bras and panties that actually fit them. So.
Oh, okay. And then I remember the first time I did a nude shoot. You know, it's like, it depends on how you're feeling from the inside and what you are spiritually and all of that, and what you're trying to convey and do all of that. So I want to thank you for coming on. I mean, we could talk forever. I just want to let everybody know that, yes, we're going through difficult, uncomfortable times right now. We just want to show and let everybody know that unity is the best thing ever. I want to say to my brands out there, do not be afraid. Just come out and say it. You know, that for me, what touches me is the apology and just understanding, you know, the road that we as Black women have walked through, had to walk through. Earlier I was giving my hair story of, you know, when I came into a fitting and somebody said, oh, there is the mop over there, you know. So it's just the judgmental, stereotypical stuff, you know. I mean, we could talk on and on about it, but thank you, Adriana. You have been a light, and I
thank you for having me.
Definitely. And I can't wait to see who the next guest is going to be on Model Meetup. Thank you for joining, everybody, all the viewers. I think there was one question. A young lady
type some in. I was like, where are the questions? We didn't even get any questions.
Time for questions. Yeah. One young lady has asked, what do you what did Jill say there? No, someone had asked, I saw it earlier in the feed, about starting as a any advice about starting as a plus size model.
Well, I mean, we have a whole hour. I have time. If people want to ask questions, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I could stay on a little longer too, because we did talk a lot about what's going on in the beginning before we hit
Sure.
modeling. So we could stay on a little more if you want to.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them. So.
Yeah, so that's okay. Line said, any advice for someone who wants to become a plus size model?
I think it really it depends on your location. If you're kind of in the middle of Idaho, there might not be a local agency that you can just kind of walk into. Before COVID, usually agencies had different casting open call days that you can show up and go to. Really, agencies are interested in digitals, and what that means are those are just, you know, the makeup, no makeup, or the no makeup pictures where you're kind of in all black jeans, maybe some heels, and you take kind of a direct side profile and a back picture. And right now it's just about kind of submitting with digital pictures and saying, these, you know, this is, I'm interested in modeling, here are my measurements, and really reaching out to agencies directly, digitally, online that way. If you do live, and if things open up sooner rather than later in New York, LA, San Francisco, you know, parts of Florida, Chicago, there are agencies based there, Seattle. You can see if they have open casting calls, and you can physically walk in, you know, again, post-COVID, whatever that looks like, and you can say, hey, I'm interested, and you can actually also submit yourself that way. I saw another question.
Yeah. There's one here. What is one truth that you want to share about the struggle in the world of plus size modeling? You want to take that one?
I think there are.
Question. What are the truths you want to share about the struggle of plus size modeling? Well, for me, I've been a plus size model for many years, and the struggle in the beginning was defining who I am and who I wanted to represent. But once I acknowledged that I knew the type of woman I wanted to represent, my career kind of took off, because I wasn't coming from a place of not knowing why I'm a plus size model. So even when I do teach classes, I teach posing classes, that's one of the first thing I always ask. Why do you want to become a plus size model? Why do you want to model? Is it just the big thinking you're just going to get makeup done here, look pretty, say you're in a magazine or on e-com or all of that? You have to define it to know why you want to be a plus size model.
I think, yeah, for me, I joined plus size because, you know, in my own experience, grew up in San Jose with a bunch of, you know, Caucasian, in a huge Caucasian community, went to an all-girls private Catholic high school, which I loved, called Presentation High School.
I'm like that same thing. I went to all-girls Catholic school in Jamaica, same thing.
And I didn't see girls that looked like me. I played volleyball. I was always, quote unquote, the biggest, not the tallest, the biggest athlete. And it really, I had an epiphany moment in my own life where Serena Williams came on the scene in tennis. And I remember looking at her being like, that's what I want to look like. And I said, you know, for me, she was really just a physical embodiment of like, who I saw that I could physically myself become. And again, I was an athlete and I had that competitive background, and she was kind of it for me. And I think that question about, you know, modeling, I really joined it because, you know, and fell into it really. I mean, I do view myself as a creative at heart, but I think the hardest thing is not everyone is down for the cause. You know, I want to approach and do things in plus modeling that maybe aren't in front of the camera. And I'm okay with that. If I turn into an agent or have my own agency or, you know, work towards some sort of, you know, all model alliance type of thing and agency and group, I'm okay with that. I want to see a lasting change within the fashion industry, and not everyone's down for that. You know, I definitely came into the industry and sometimes still find myself in this level of being naive, of being like, yeah, everyone's down for the cause and we all are equal and there's enough work for all of us, not just the elite 8 who are at top agencies. And, you know, there are companies that want to and should work with all different kinds of sizes, ages, and ethnicities of models. And there are people who are not only, but they're, that's not their motto. And that's okay. But, you know, for me, it's sometimes been a tough reminder that not everyone's down for the true cause of why this, you know, why this movement became a thing. And I don't want it to just be a fad. I don't want it to just be like, oh, remember in the early 2000s when Plus was like a thing, and now it's like
every 2 years, you know, say that though. They do say, oh, Plus Curvy is in. It's always in, people. It's always been there. You know, they're like, oh, it's a thing. It's always been a thing. Definitely. Yeah. Jill is asking you, talk about how you've gone after work without an agency behind you.
I think for me, again, I'm really kind of a research nerd. I have looked up domestically, internationally. I've written people directly on Instagram. I mean, I have gone to Fashion Week for 5 years straight. I go the last 2 weeks of August and stay till the middle of September. And every morning I research and find. And when I didn't have a New York agent, I looked at every top model that was thanking and posting about their agents. I found them on Instagram. I went to LinkedIn. I found them. I wrote them messages. If there were panel discussions and things, I went to them. I mean, you have to go after it. Yes, there are some models that come out of nowhere and you're like, you are a unicorn and you're beautiful and everyone wants to work with you and that's amazing. But for 99% of us, you got to put in some work, and that's okay. And don't be afraid of it. I mean, you know, one of my really close friends, Ashana, who's a Plus model, I think she's in here. You know, she's reminded me often about, you know, hey, you need to, you know, celebrate those good things. And there's a lot of times where I personally struggle. I'm like, I've been in this for 10 years and I'm not A, B, C, D, whether that's working with this client, being in a New York Fashion Week show, doing these things. And she often reminds me of, but look at what you've done. And so I think it's about, you know, understanding what your goals are and managing your own expectations, but still going for, you know, those goals that you have for yourself. So.
Yes. So Bella says, amen. Yes. She says, amen. You have to do it and not stand still. Yeah, because I know a lot of models get very frustrated when you go to an agency and all of them are telling you no and no and no. But as Bella said, you have to keep going. That's where it's very important, where you got to find that strength within and be like, okay, well, you're telling me no, 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 I'm going to show you yes, yes, yes. And now with Instagram, I mean, you know, everything is possible now. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, have your own channel, all of that. You could make it happen. Definitely. So
you just have to stay consistent. And, you know, I've had instances where I applied to a very predominant Plus agency 2-3 years in a row. They said no, no, no. And the third year they said yes.
Oh, that's another thing too. You always have to be consistent. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. You always have, like, yeah, that's one of the things that models always tell me, you know, especially with trying to get a big agency. Keep trying. Even if they tell you no this week, the other week, or the next month, just keep trying. Definitely.
So just a quick, doing in the work is the research, but you know, I haven't always made the time and investment. You need to shoot, and that doesn't, and sometimes that means in the beginning, shoot, you know, get comfortable in your body and poses and stuff, but you need to show clients that you can be what they're selling. So you need to make that actual monetary investment to shoot with reputable photographers who know how to shoot Plus, or collaborate with those people and get yourself out there. So this question about how do you work with popular brands that don't make Plus? You know, I think that Madeline Jones of Plus Model Magazine has broached this topic pretty well. I think that there are certain brands that it would be very easy for them to cross over and to basically get money in the Plus market, because that's what it is. We've always been underserved, underrepresented. It's like, here's the parka. It's what you want, right? You're Plus. Here you go. Put on the poncho. Like, this is what you want. And you know, that's not it. And you can try to speak with brands directly about that, whether on social media, try to, again, research on LinkedIn. To me, LinkedIn has been my friend, and I understand I come from a corporate background, but you can find people who are in design, who are on different levels of that company and say, hey, I'd like to have this conversation about it. But again, Madeline Jones has said something that only in being in this industry for so many years, I've really grown to understand. She's like, stop begging the people who don't want you at their table to make things for you.
Yeah.
And I think a good example of that is the Victoria's Secret runway show. Have plus. And then they go, hey, we've got a size 8 straight up and down model. We're being inclusive. It's like, no, stop buying from them. Stop begging them to make things for you when Curvy Couture, Additional, and, you know, Goddess and all these other companies are not only making product, but they're using the fit models. That's all using the fit models to make good products that actually represent and fit these clients. So you need to kind of also rewire your thinking. You can try to start that conversation and you may be successful, but what I found to be more successful is you actually support the companies that want your business and support you. So that's that would be my recommendation on that.
Just said, JE55 Love says, yes, I always suggest it, but they are afraid it's bizarre. What? It's bizarre. My body is not bizarre. It is beautiful. It is lovely, and it is fashion, and we want fashion too. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is one of the main things we gotta let the fashion industry know. I know it's opening up. It's definitely opening. It's definitely different now. Yeah. So research. And again, I want to thank you because now I gotta go. Yeah, I gotta go.
Well, again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. If anybody has any direct questions, please feel free to DM me. I'd be happy to help in whatever way I can.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really, you know, it's a very tumultuous time on all fronts. I have the faith that, again, I view fashion as a being expression of art. And yes, it's been turned into a business. Watch the Alexander McQueen documentary on Netflix. But, you know, this is an opportunity for artists to pull together and to do some great things. And I know people think, oh, it's just fashion. Like, it can't do that. It can. You know, I think that fashion can really, I mean, look what Christian Siriano did with one of the first designers to be like, we're going to make masks for healthcare workers. Like, you know, there's a lot of.
Like 1, 2, 3, he really did. And all the virtual fashion shows. For my swimwear line, I was included in a virtual fashion show.
Oh, cool.
In the British Virgin Islands on Saturday. And it was awesome. You know, it was like virtual fashion show. So you could like, on whatever platform, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
That's awesome.
And you shoot out yourself to all over the world without flying all over the world. It's just awesome.
Did you see that Congolese designer who had like the capsule collection?
That was awesome.
That kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I also like too that when she had the profile view of these models, they weren't sticks. They had actual.
Yeah. They were great. The only thing I didn't like about it is that you didn't see the it was more humanized. You know what I mean?
No, true. It was a little. I did feel, again, the level of avatar. I mean, it was all a little. It was a lot. I think I watched it about 8 times in a row to really like get the true feeling of it. But
right.
I mean, the potential is there.
Yes, definitely. So they still need us no matter what kind of, you know, avatar models. We are still here. The real models are here. And we believe in unity and love, guys. So be safe.
Be safe.
Adriana, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Close it out a little bit. You're not getting away.
Okay.
Go.
Just kidding.
I want to thank everybody for coming.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
Great questions. Thank you for joining Model Meetup Take 6. Wow. Can't wait to see who's going to be on next week. So see you guys. Be safe. Love, 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 love. Justice for all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. Adriana, she is absolutely fabulous. She has a world of information. Go on our page and DM her. She did say you could DM her. Yes. So bye, guys. Close it up. Have fun. Be safe. Stay tuned for next week to see who my next guest will be on Model Meetup. Bye, guys.